If you are a married believer trying to navigate this intimacy thing without shame, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because you are in the right place.
Welcome to the space where we tell our truth. Testimony, healing, breaking shame loose. Learning our bodies and walking by faith. Intimacy God's way, right here is the place. Sex ed for saints, Mondays at 6. We believe in the power of the story. Not just pain, but redemption and glory. Faith in the rhythm, hearts in the mix, trust in educators. Mondays at 6, we're overcoming by the word of these testimonies. People getting free when we speak what's holy. Healing in our hearts, shame starts to split. Every story told, another chain gets stripped. Learning our bodies, learning His way. Intimacy and faith, walking day by day. This is where we heal, where the truth sticks. Sex ed for saints, Mondays at 6.
I'm so excited to finally share this book with you. Hey God, Can I is available now. Find the link in my bio to get your copy.
Hey friends, quick pause in this lesson because I need to put you onto something that has been blessing so many households. This episode has been sponsored by Covenant Eyes, the accountability app that helps you protect your eyes, your mind, and your marriage. If you're serious about keeping your digital life pure, guarded, and God honoring, Covenant Eyes is a game changer. It helps you to stay accountable online and creates a safe space for your heart and your home. And listen, because you are a part of the Marriage Lab, you get 30 days free when you use my code Marriage Lab. So go ahead, take that step, cover your devices, and cover your covenant.
Welcome, everybody. We are here today, all smiles and joy. Again, for those of you who do not know us, myself, I am Tammy. I'm an intimacy and relationship coach. And over here, somewhere on the screen, this way, that way, is Larissa. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself. We are focusing on the manifestations of sexual trauma. So we are excited. We're trying to figure out where to go from here, but we're going to figure that out, right?
We'll figure it out.
We're gonna figure that out because it has been a blessing. The feedback and the response that we've been receiving from it has been great. And so we are excited to share in on this journey because there's so much to share, because so many people are struggling and so many people need to be freed of the things from their sexual past. So Larissa, you have anything you want to say in that introduction?
Outside of introducing myself, hey everyone, my name is Larissa Rhone. I am a survivor empowerment coach and an author, amongst a bunch of other things we won't get into right now. But I wanted to just touch on what Tammy said just now and touch on what makes us an authority in this space to be able to have this conversation with you and to talk with you openly and transparently of what does sexual trauma and the manifestation of that actually looks like in our own personal life. Now, disclaimer, we are just sharing because one of the mandates and one of the things that I think just our motto, period, is empowering others to speak and to speak in hopes of starting the healing journey. And if you haven't already started, or you have already started, to continue bringing awareness through using your voice to talk about what the experience has done, what we're still currently experiencing, and whatever comes with that. So, with that said, I am a third generation child rape survivor. Was raped by my grandmother's husband for years. Started with molestation at 5, and then at age 11 through 16, I was raped by him. And I said third generation because this also happened to my mother, where she was raped from 6 through 16, and my grandmother, and also my little sister, but she wasn't raped, thank God. However, that's a part of my story. Tammy?
And a part of my story is the fact that I was molested beginning at the age of 8. And then I was raped at the age of 13. And then the molestations and the cycles continued on from after that. And so when it comes to manifestation and how that shows up in our lives, we can speak on, how it showed up in our individual lives because it has showed up, right? That's the reason why we're here. Right. And it shows up in various areas, and we wanted to talk about that. We wanted to share. And so we'll get into that story as we go on, the various ways that it showed up in our lives. So, yeah.
And could I just add real quick that another disclaimer, trauma shows up in all our lives in different ways. Okay. We cope, we handle, we survive, and do all of that in different ways. However, for some of us, it's similar, right? So as we go through and we touch on all the different ways it possibly shows up in our lives, just know we may not touch on something that you may be experiencing at this present time or even have experienced at all. But we're just going to be touching on, as Tammy said, some of the ways it showed up in both of our lives.
Right. So let's get into it.
Let's talk about it, girl.
Let's talk about it. How trauma showed up in my life. How trauma showed up in my life. I want to say that from the very first time I was molested, it was from multiple people. And as I grew older, and then I was in a situation where I was raped, and then after that molested, there were a lot of things going on with me mentally. And so I say all of that to say, because when I was molested, any of the time, just pick one, there was something that was growing in me in terms of my mentality and the way that I saw the world. The world that I was looking at began to change. And one of the ways that it began to change was the way that I began to see people. I began to see people differently, because prior to the molestation, everybody was safe, right? It was a good world. I was young, I was 8 years old. Yeah. And I loved to play. I loved to be around people. I was a joyous child. Mm-hmm. And then after the molestations, I was like, hold on, wait, this isn't normal. Like, this isn't a joy. This isn't a fun thing to do. So one of the things that I began to realize is that when I was in different spaces, and mostly men, that I started to feel unsafe, right? And it was almost as if, like, they weren't doing things. Like, if I was around regular family or regular guys, like, they weren't doing things to make me feel unsafe. It just became their presence began to be unsafe to me. And I began looking at it as, is this person going to, or should I expect this person to, as opposed to just having a regular relationship. Mm-hmm. So I think that for me, it kind of damaged me mentally when it related to, because I know a lot of times when we did the podcast prior, I would talk about how I would have the control and how I wanted to, take ownership and all of that. And a lot of the reasons of why I wanted to do that was because I felt so unsafe that by me being able to take control of the situation, meant that I could take control of those feelings that I had. So that's one of the ways that it manifested when it came in terms to my relationships. You relate to that?
Can I relate to it? Let me show you something. I'm going to show you guys something real quick. I wrote some points down. I don't know if you guys can see it, because I just wanted to remember some stuff. The very first thing on there is not feeling safe. My not feeling safe. Yeah. And so even though I said earlier that our experiences are different, some things are very similar. That is one of them for me. I still, till this day, but thank God, I know how to, talk myself out of certain things when I'm in certain spaces. For me, not feeling safe is one of the biggest challenges that I had for years. And especially when I'm in close spaces with older men, older gentlemen, men on a whole, but older men, because my so-called quote unquote grandpa was, of course, he was a grown man. Yeah. So I found myself, whenever I'm in spaces, and one such example, a couple of years ago, well, it's a few years now, because I hadn't been back to Jamaica from 2020 until this past February. But I was in a store. I went to this little shop area that they had to get some stuff for my kids, to get chicken for my fried chicken for my children. And inside this place, there was this gentleman, this older gentleman walked in, and he was sitting off in the corner to a stool. And girl, you know when you have that feeling like someone is just staring at you?
Mhm.
But the moment he opened the door, because that's another thing that makes me very, because I felt unsafe all the time. So the moment a door opens or just any kind of movement, I'm always, pivoting, I'm looking, just like what's going on. So that I saw when he walked into the store, but he went off to the corner. And mind you, this man is there to get a meal, just like everybody else and whatever, but he kept staring at me, Tammy. And I literally felt like his eyes were just piercing my skin. And he ended up walking over to me. Literally, what he was about to do was just to say to me that I'm beautiful, right? But why, when this older man, he got up off the stool and started walking towards me, dread, I swear, panic totally set in. I'm in an open space, I'm in a public space, and this man is walking up to me. And that is what just set off the alarms for me. Like,
Right,
is he going to touch me?
right.
In that moment, I turned and the man, the man said, "Excuse me." And before he could say anything else, I said, "Get away from me." I started freaking out. And now this is a grown woman that should have known better.
Mhm.
I think I know better, but for whatever reason in that moment, I swear little Larissa came out
Mhm.
and she was just like, "Get away from me, get away from me." And this man was so startled. I
Mhm.
felt when my conscious brain kicked back in, I'm just like, "Oh my dear God."
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm so sorry." And this had happened to me before too, here in the US at a club. But the fact that I felt so horrible. I was just, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And he was like, "I was just trying to tell you that you're pretty." And I'm like, "Thank you." So it's like, so now not only was I pretty, but I was pretty crazy. "You're mad, man. You're mad." And I'm like, that's a Jamaican guy. "You're mad." And I'm like, what am I gonna say? I
Yeah.
did react like a crazy person.
Gotta
So,
share.
but that is one of the ways that it manifested for me. And as I said before, even now as an adult, if I'm in some level of an enclosed space with older men,
Yeah.
I start to get tight and clench and whatever the case. And as I said before, now I am more equipped to, start talking to myself and knowing, having some tools that I can say, "Okay, Larissa, you're grown, you're safe. He can't do anything to you that you don't allow. No one can touch you. Just breathe." And, you have to talk to yourself and get yourself out of that situation. But yes.
Mhm.
And something else I wanted to add real quick, which I thought was so funny. We started talking, you and I, about possibly doing this manifestation podcast. And Wednesday, I was on my way to file my taxes, girl. And I decided to turn the music off in the car and just drive, just silent. And even after all of the years and all the work I've been doing, I'm driving, and Tammy, clear as day, I had this vivid imagery of my 5-year-old self,
Mhm.
right? And I saw myself in the bathroom at my parents' house at this point, and I was popping, literally popping, and I'm driving and I'm seeing this.
Mhm.
How dangerous is that? But in my mind's eye, I can literally see myself popping the dolls, like just dismantling the doll, popping the doll's head off, flushing it, popping the arms off, flushing it, popping the legs. And I have this giggle, I'm laughing while I'm doing it.
Mhm.
Talk about cray cray.
Yeah.
But anyhow, the funny thing is, I had that memory. I had what we would call a flashback, and what is titled a flashback. At the most inopportune moment, I was driving,
Mhm.
right? And in that moment, I started going, "Okay, God, where is that coming from?"
Mhm.
Right? And then this just started downloading in my spirit that as a little girl, I did show those behaviors. It was manifesting, the trauma was manifesting. And the thing is, no one caught it. My parents thought it was very odd because I had older cousins, relatives that lived abroad when I was little. And because I was a little girl, they thought that it was really cool to send a bunch of dolls home for me to, and hated I hated the dolls so much. And every time I got them, and my mom thought it was just funny that I would literally rip the
The
dolls
kids
apart,
out.
right? And so I'm driving Wednesday, and all of this started downloading to me. And also, I started having another flashback of my being in my early and late 20s and dressed like a dude the whole period.
Mm,
Couldn't. But then, long and short of the story, what I realized then, and I never pieced it together until then, was that I so hated the body I was in. I
mm,
hated being a girl and everything that it represented. I just hated, so from I was a child, I was showing those signs. I never liked doll, never wanted one, never wanted anything to do with them. And then it manifested into something else the older I got, where I started looking and acting the part of a boy, right? And the belief behind that, which I was already aware of, was I felt as if I looked like a dude and dressed like a dude, it would repel dudes.
yeah,
And that was the bottom line. I did not want to be seen because I didn't want to be approached because I felt how I felt on the inside, which was unworthy. I just felt, and all of that meant my, again, being in unsafe spaces and places. So I dressed the part. But
yeah.
girl, can I tell you, it actually changed when I got hit on by a girl. it's
You're
it's
like,
funny,
wait a
but
minute.
it's funny, but it's not funny. Okay. But the
Mhm.
funny thing is those are just a couple of the ways that the trauma manifested for me. And for long periods, I didn't really understand it. I never understood that it was because I hated myself and hated the body I was in
Yeah,
so badly that I was showing these signs were coming up, these symptoms, all of these things. But yeah, it took something drastic to shift that for me.
yeah.
And but
That's real, you know.
truthfully, I only in recent years started wearing colors and whatever the case is, actually trying to look girly and act like a girl. But yeah,
With
any crazy stories like mine?
yeah. No, I don't have crazy stories. I mean, I went through those periods where obviously, I'm not gonna say obviously, but body shame was attached to that,
Mm,
a lot of it. So for me, I became like you, like I dressed like a tomboy up until a certain point. But no girls came onto me then. It wasn't until later on in life. But during that phase, like I didn't want to draw the attention to myself.
right.
So I definitely understand that aspect. Um,
Hmm.
and a lot of it is not because I didn't want to be seen. I just felt like I wasn't seen, you know?
Mm,
So
mm,
I was just living up to that part of
right.
not being seen and not doing anything extra to be seen,
To
you know?
be seen, right.
I wasn't like a popular kid. I probably would have been because I was so outgoing prior to, but
Hmm.
after the trauma showed up, I remember being in middle school and high school and all of that. Like I pretty much was isolated,
Mm,
and the aggression was only when I was in relationships or in a situational ship. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Like
mhm.
it wasn't people would look at me and they wouldn't know or understand what it was that I was doing because I kept that part like covered. Like nobody really knew that I was out there. So it was kind of like my own thing that I used to deal with privately. So like if I had somebody who I was in a situational ship with, that was private. It wasn't like a public type of situation unless you were a friend that was close to me. And even then, that space was limited. So I moved in silence and I continued to move in silence. Like my life was moving in silence. And
Mhm.
so like I just didn't want people in my business. Like I just didn't want all of that. Like I was a private, isolated type of person. And I was fine with that. I was fine with that. So yeah, that's how that was for me.
You know, one of the things that brought up for me just now while you were speaking, and it's something I often talk about people in relationships and having experienced levels of trauma that they don't speak of, but it's manifesting in their lives and causing issues in their relationships. And it sometimes you have people, you have married couple, you have just significant others, you're laying in the same bed and interacting with each other every single day, and you don't know the literal issues that they're dealing with, right? And why some of the ways that they're showing up, it's simply because their traumas have not been dealt with.
Yeah.
But in moments like that, as you said, you're showing up in space, it's even in relationships, and the way you feel on the inside, of course, you're presenting and projecting the opposite, but
Mhm.
you're dying, literally having all of these on things that you're dealing with on the inside of you. And the people that are closest with you and in the same space with you have no idea.
I have no
That
idea.
is tormenting.
It is. It
That
is.
is tormenting. And I've had to live with that for years and years of just what we do is put on that bold face and we go out. But it's even more tormenting when you get by yourself and you're replaying whatever. But when you're in shared spaces with people that you say you love and they say they love you, but you don't even know who the hell you love or what is really going on with the individual,
Yeah.
it's a crazy space to be in.
Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. And in you sharing that, I'm just thinking about, because I'm married. And so
Hmm.
I went through those periods of, where after I got saved, I was like, yeah, I'm going to work on me. I'm going to do this whole celibacy journey and, work on these things. And yes, when I was, you know, going through my testimony, yeah, I was molested and raped and yada, yada, yada. But I didn't do the work in terms of, the healing aspect. I thought that just because I was saved, that would take care of all that, just because I was
Right.
like, just because I put it on the altar, God, this happened to me, that was it. And so, after fast forward to
Realize.
when I get married, right? I'm thinking, my husband is doing little simple stuff and I'm
Right.
triggered by it. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. Like, where did this come from? And it was then when I realized that, wait a minute, you have some more work to do because
Right.
you're being easily triggered by these things because you didn't go through the proper process of your healing journey so that you could understand how the two are connected, you know? And so like that was a transitional period because these things, it didn't matter prior to. And the reason why
Right.
it didn't matter was because the dudes who I was having sex with, like I was just having sex with, their opinions didn't matter to me. Like, even if I was like, yeah, I love you, like it didn't matter because I knew that if they did something that I didn't like, or vice versa, we could just bounce and we could just go our separate ways. But when you come together and you're actually in a marriage and it ain't no, okay, I don't like how your left toe looks. So you know what I'm saying? Like you can't just leave because of that. You have to work through the issues that you have because this is the person that you're joined to for the rest of your life. And so you have to actually start approaching these things and living out how to get healing from it. So that was one of the things that I was addressed with when I got married, because I'm like, okay, well, how do I now take this and put it? Because if you can't be comfortable with your body in your marriage, and not even in your marriage, but outside, right? If you
Right.
can't be comfortable, you can't even be your vulnerable self. You can't be your true authentic self. That means that you can't be fully intimate. You can't
Right.
be vulnerable. You're always going to be holding back and you're already putting up the guards there for that person to even come in. And so you have to be able to be free from all things that can hinder you from, living a glorious marriage, and especially when it comes to your sexual life. You know what I'm saying? So
I do.
you do. And it manifested in that aspect because I had to understand, okay, what is causing the triggers? Why are the triggers happening? And what do I need to do so that I'm not consistently triggered? Because I'm a sexual being. I'm a sexual being. My spouse is a sexual being. And so I have to understand this because I can't be freaking out in the middle of the act talking about, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't, you have to get that together because, you know, when you're thinking about the whole sexual experience and you're coming together, this is a God thing. And that's one thing, that's one way that the enemy has been successful, is that he's already deterred the whole sexual experience and made us believe, because we're traumatized, that it's not a godly act. And
Right.
so respond to that in every relationship that we have. And that is a problem, which is why we have to deal with the things that trigger us.
Speak on it, girl. Listen, all of what you just said just now brought up so many things for me. Okay, and let me explain, because at one point in time you were laughing, and I stay doing that every time we touch on the godly part, the spiritual part, and Christianity, and having to deal with all of this and the things that we honestly believe, because we've been so programmed to think that it doesn't matter what the experience is that we've gone through, we can just pray it away and we'll be okay, right? And it does not work like that. So the moment you said it, and I apologize to the audience or anyone that's watching, it's a nervous thing for me, or it's not even nervous.
I have
tend
it
to
too.
laugh.
I smile all the time. I could be talking about death and I'd be like, yeah, but it's not really that.
Right.
Yeah, we
I
both
tend
got
to
it.
laugh
It's
at inopportune moments, but it just comes out. But for me, I find it funny because it comes up so much, and to know that so many of us still push that narrative and still hold on to that belief that once we pray about it, we'll be okay. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't work like that. And it's in those settings you spoke about freaking out when it came onto your partner, your husband, not even just a regular anybody, any schmojo at this point. This is your husband. And I'm thinking about all the marriages out there where it's either that you have so many people that are freaking out even today because of the traumas and it's manifesting, or you have those that disassociate completely. In that moment of intimacy, they get so triggered, they completely leave. And I'm speaking from personal experience where you're in this moment and it should be an intimate, beautiful moment, and you get triggered. What do you do? For me, it often showed up as whatever is going on with you, I'm not even there. I done checked out. I'm somewhere else in an alternate universe, having a whole different experience while you may be having the time of your life.
Yeah.
The other part to that is that it forces so many survivors, and this extends to both men and women, that instead of being present and experiencing the experience and everything that comes with that, it ends up being tormenting. Again, I have to go back to that word, because instead of you just enjoying whatever is happening, it becomes tormenting. It's just this thing where you're not saying it out. And some of us are bold enough to do it, to say, get the hell up off of me. You know what I mean? There's so many ways that it shows up, but it's one of those things that we have to be intentional and be aware about, that if this person touches me this way, if this person says, because that was something that happened to me for years in relationships, where there's certain trigger words, and it's odd to say, and we'll get into this. That's why I think this is going to continue. But for example, Vaseline was just saying the word, just seeing the word Vaseline was a trigger for me for years. And I don't have to go into details. I'm quite sure everyone here can figure why Vaseline was a trigger. And I remember being with someone that I loved dearly at one point, and during an intimate moment, he made mention of Vaseline, and girl, it was a wrap for me. I ended up going from being present, fully ready to, now I'm curled up in the fetal position on the next side of the bed somewhere.
And they
I don't
trying to
want to
figure
be
out
touched.
like what's
I'm
happening.
crying. Don't touch me.
Yeah.
Right. And how do you even begin to explain that's another thing?
Yeah.
I am telling myself or convince myself I can't explain or tell you what is happening. So I am just left with feeling, because I feel like I'm going to be judged. I feel like you're going to think I'm all of these things. But that is what my mind is telling me. When my partner, and this was way after we had broken up, when I had explained myself at that point, I was like, why didn't you say that?
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was going to be judged. I was feeling disgusting and nasty in the moment, because of course it brought me right back to my childhood,
Yeah.
but I couldn't say it. And I was an adult at this point. But
Yeah.
again, we could go on for hours and hours and days on manifestation and the various ways it shows up. We're just lightly tapping here.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some of the ways.
That's a very real.
And can I add real quick, because I wrote this down while you were talking. It's one of the reasons why sometimes we are with people that we love, and in the weirdest of moments, they become so withdrawn. They seem so cold, calculated, and just it, you just never know what someone is dealing with. And when oftentimes we see behaviors like that, we're so quick to judge. Dare I say, and I put it out there, if you're dealing with someone and you realize, especially during intimate moments, you notice certain things and they start acting funny or start withdrawing or whatever, ask the question, start that conversation,
Yeah.
right? Because one of the things that survivors need most out of anything else is to feel seen and to be heard and to be acknowledged, and most importantly to be believed.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that oftentimes it's not that we don't want to talk.
Yeah.
That's seldom the case. We do want to talk, but because we feel as if we're going to be judged or misunderstood or whatever is going to come with that, the negatives that is, it keeps us in that space of just being mute all the time and just suppressing everything and trying to deal with it on our own, which leads to a lot of literally mental health issues,
Yeah.
because we're not talking. And as a result of all of that, it's manifesting in so many ways, when sometimes, again, just basically having a conversation
Yes.
affords us such freedom, So again, I am just saying to whomever out there, if you're in a relationship and during your intimate periods, or even just any day at any moment you see your significant other spazzing out and you think it's a little bit much, just start a conversation.
Yeah.
Are you
Start a
okay? Like,
conversation.
seriously.
I love how
Right.
you said that, because one of the things that I've learned, and not just for myself, but speaking with others, is that people who have been in situations of trauma, they require a little bit extra
Mhm.
attention, right? And I think that it's important for the spouse of that individual to be able to handle that situation with a little bit more care, which means that
Mhm.
you have to be a little bit more sensitive to their needs. And that might look different for everybody, because I know for me, one of the things where, trying to be careful how I say this, because I don't want to paint no horrible picture, right? Is having those conversations requires sensitivity with it, a nurturing space, basically,
Mhm.
because you want to get your spouse to a place where they can feel safe. Because the reason why they aren't embracing the way that they are, maybe, is because they're not feeling safe, and it's because the issue at hand is a little bit sensitive. You were speaking about, the guilt and the shame and all the things that's attached to it.
Right.
You're going to feel those things, but in order to get over that, it takes having the conversation, but it takes feeling safe enough to have the conversation. And
Right.
the responses have to be in a way where, like you said, you have to
Not
be able to be seen.
judgmental.
You have to
It's
be
yeah.
heard. because it does take a mental toll. I can't remember which research it was, but they did do research on it where, you know, trauma plays a role on depression and anxiety, high levels of anxiety, right? Like all of these different mental issues, a lot of them are because of unhealed trauma. And they
Post-traumatic stress disorder, girl.
post-traumatic stress. That's a big one, especially if it's a what I want to say, if it's a trauma event that was magnified, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You will have that. You'll have many things going on. And it's important. I know we're going to talk about the tools later, but it's important to get help.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important.
It is. It is. And I think one of the struggles that we have is so many people don't have language to express and explain what they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we touch on mental health, and that topic in itself is so wide and, broad. And being Jamaican, girl, that
Caribbean.
being from the Caribbean, when it comes on to mental health, I I don't even know how it became such a sore topic, such a taboo topic in of itself to speak of, because the moment you hear mental health, for many Jamaicans and many people in the Caribbean, the West Indian, it's somehow equated to you're mad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that is how it's viewed. That is how it's seen. I can remember being, growing up with my dad and hearing my dad say, people would say, okay, you probably need to see a therapist or talk to someone. It's like, mad people got therapy, mad people do this,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And that stigma that's associated with that, and not realizing that, just not being able to give voice, not being able to verbalize the issues, and all of us have things that we struggle with. All of us. It doesn't have to be that you were raped or sexually assaulted any which way. All of us have a myriad of things that we are dealing with, different types of trauma. And when we can't even be feel safe enough to say these things, what do we think happened?
Yeah.
It takes a toll on us, not just mentally. One of the things that I know I experienced for years, and I touched on this in the previous pod, depression. I was so depressed for years, but I did not have language to say that's what I was. I just thought it was the norm.
Yeah.
Literally, me coming home or being home, I don't want to get out of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk to anybody. But I did not know that was depression. And then the other part of that was my anxiety level was through the roof. But again, I didn't have language for it. And you sitting here going back to what we were talking about earlier, it's not because I didn't pray.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
girl, I
Mhm.
prayed, I talked to God so much about the things, even though I didn't have language, I didn't know how to say, help me with, my anxiety, help I'm dealing with depression. God knew what I was dealing with, but I couldn't even pray correctly to say this because I didn't know.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I prayed. I
Yeah.
did pray. For
Yeah.
me, I'm not saying it doesn't work for everybody or anybody. For me, simply praying did not work. It didn't work. It
Yeah.
helped.
It-
But you know what my answer was every time I pray? I needed to go find somebody to help me. That's why God equipped people to do
because
certain things.
they give you the tools, like you can
Yeah.
pray, and every time you feel, you can go and pray, and you're feeling the need that you currently have. But when it comes to living and being practical, it requires tools. And like you
Mm.
said, they pay people, like people go to school to learn how to give people tools that is going to work for them.
Right.
So, because people can spend hours at the altar, you know what I'm saying? If the case was for you to just go to the altar and be healed, then there would be no need for an altar. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
because your problem would just be fixed right then and there, and then you get up and go back to your life. And that's for anything. That's for any area of your life. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Some of us coming to the altar every Sunday for the same issue.
right. You know what I'm saying? But you're not actually putting in the work so that you don't have to
There you
come
go.
there for that particular issue anymore.
Exactly.
So what are the tools that you are using so that if you got to go to that altar, it's just because I love you, God. It ain't because I'm still struggling with the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Correct. We definitely need to learn the tools. And I, there's so many different ways to approach this, so many tools, different methodologies, different ways of dealing with things. But the fact is, again, prayer is just another way, but it works in tandem with something else. Okay. And as Tammy mentioned before, it's knowing that God actually equipped humans to help us in certain capacities. The problem becomes so many of us have so long lived with this belief that we cannot speak about or issues that we just refuse to because we feel as everyone is going to judge us or because I prayed about it, I'm healed. But ask yourself the question. You pray today and you get up, you have a bit of a relief. But the moment you walk down the pew, you didn't even get outside the church. Someone done did something, looked at you the wrong way, tricked you, something. And another side of you started coming. What happened there? Right. And again, the same issues that you keep going back, as in you keep going to God and you keep asking about the same things over and over. It's an indicator that something else needs to be applied to that. It's not just praying, it's prayer and works, doing the work.
Doing the
And a
work.
part of the work is being open enough to know that they are tools out there. And if you don't necessarily know where to begin to do that, ask questions. It's okay. It
Yeah,
is okay.
absolutely.
Trust me.
Absolutely. If you don't want to go to a therapist, Google. Go to Chat GTP. GPT. What it was Chat GPT.
Girl, I'm not even familiar with it.
Because apparently they got everything. But the point is you have to find, you have to seek, you have to go looking because you are responsible for your own healing, right? We talked about that.
Part.
You're
That part.
responsible to get it. You want to keep
Right.
manifesting in your life, you have to change that
Mhm.
or continue the cycle. Or continue the cycle.
And it's continuing the cycle of all the different ways the stuff is showing up. It's not just the mental part of it, it's the fact that it's showing up in your physical health.
Yeah.
You know, you're struggling with stuff that some of the things that you're dealing with health wise is as a result of all of that turmoil that is stuffed down on the inside of you that
Absolutely.
you need to get out. And again, it's okay to go and seek these things out. And dare I say, please believe me when I tell you, no one is coming to save you.
Yeah.
No one can do the work for you. I wish to God I could tell you different, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
You have to not only try to seek this, but before you even get to the point of seeking help, you have to get to the place of seeing yourself as valuable, seeing yourself as deserving of getting the help that you need, loving yourself enough to say, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. If my children are coming to hug me, this is not my personal experience, but as in with my own children, but it was an experience I had even with my my mom, you know, where just hugging her and touching her, which she didn't understand then that it was triggering her, but I couldn't touch my mother,
Yeah.
right? If simple things like that,
Yeah.
I couldn't touch her without her shunning me and saying my hands feel a
I'm
particular way.
glad. I'm glad you mentioned that because one of the biggest things that I am still working through is that affection. I don't like people touching me. I don't want them touching me. I'm not an affectionate person.
Oh wow.
And that even shows up even as I'm raising my children. I'm trying to be better. but I don't want to hug, I don't want to cuddle, I don't want, like, that's not me. I don't want to do any of those things. And that is an issue, because even when I'm thinking about, my daughter, who is now 18, I love you. Like, I'll be like, yeah, I love you. You know what I mean? Like, that affection part, I've always struggled with, because there is something about me being that close. Even I try, because that's a part of intimacy, right? Like, you have to learn how to be affectionate. But that part right there is a continuous struggle. And even with my daughter, like, now she's picking that up. Like, she don't want to be touched. You know what I mean? And it's because, like, I'm not that hugger type of person. And that's unfortunate, because, we should be able to hug more, you know what I mean? Be more affectionate when it comes to, like, even the kids. But when it comes to that, like, my boys, they're 4 and 3, and they love to hug, they love to cling, and that is stressful for me. That is stressful for me. Like, it literally stresses me out, because they are clingy. Like, they want to touch me. Like, they could be attached to my hip. And for me, I'm like, give me some space. Even my kids,
Yeah.
I'm like, I need space. My
I
husband
wanted to
needs
say
space. Mm-hmm.
thank you so much. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No, you're fine.
but thank you so much for being this transparent at this moment.
Mhm.
Because the mere fact that you could admit to that, there's so many people that this is a problem for. And
Mhm.
I'm talking about a huge problem. And
Mhm.
again, this is one of the ways in which trauma manifests, because it's not just you that sadly it affects the way you're showing up to even your children. And now you're unconsciously teaching your children the same thing.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this, you're not alone in this space, because it's something I struggled with for years. But then on the flip side of that, it wasn't to the extent where, you don't want, because I had that too, where I didn't want to be touched. I don't feel, but then I realized that no, I actually yearn. I am an affectionate person. One of my love language is touch,
Yeah.
right? But I had to work through that. And the irony is that's when they say God never makes a mistake,
Mhm.
because the difference for me was when I had my boys, I had to force myself to sit through that, because exactly my boys were and still are so affectionate to the point it drives me crazy sometimes, but but I had to sit through that, Tammy, and now I love being hugged, which I'm giving you a forewarning, girl. We haven't met in person yet. And I am happy that you were bold enough and transparent enough to share that, but I'm giving you a warning because I am a hugger now,
Mhm.
even though because of the girls that I work with now and the adults that I work with, I'm more aware now. I actually ask people if I can hug them before I do,
Mhm.
because I know this to be true. I'm giving you a warning. I don't
That's
think
okay. That's okay.
I'm gonna,
I have this friend,
I ain't gonna ask.
and
Mm-mm.
she has the gift of hugging, okay? Like, her hug is like, that's the only time I've ever had a hug where I'm just like, okay, I can
Mm,
hug people.
mm.
You know what I mean? Because I always lead with, I'm not a hugger. I'm not a hugger. But I don't mind. I don't mind
I
hugging.
am now.
I'm
I
not,
am now, but
yeah.
again, it took work. It took work.
It's
And that is going to be my challenge for you too. Even though it feels cringeworthy at
Mhm.
times when even your little one comes and hug, the truth of the matter is sometimes that's the thing our children needs the most. They don't need the toys. They just need quality time with you. And that looks like you just cuddling them,
Yeah.
holding them randomly. My boys get sick of me now. And it was just my way of forcing through whatever I was going through. I would just call them and just hug on them. I was like, but mom, you just hugged me 5 minutes ago. Okay, but I want a hug.
Yeah.
Right. And now I'm okay with it.
Mhm.
I'm more comfortable with it. I'm not saying that still sometimes I don't have to catch myself because I done broke them this way. So sometimes when I'm really not in the greatest of headspace and they're coming, oh mom, I want to cuddle. I'm just like, go away. Just go
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
But I have to bring myself back and say, okay, Larissa, this is not the kid's issue. That's your issue. Now you're projecting, get it under control and come back.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And I love that. I love that. So what else we got?
I think, I don't know how long we've been on now. You see, this is why I'm saying this is going to have to be more than
It
4
is, because
episodes.
there's so much more to be said. Like, we talked about self-esteem. I don't think we talked about self-esteem a lot. We didn't talk about careers. We didn't talk
Mhm.
about, well, we talked a little bit about sexuality. We talked
Right.
about physical health, mental health. We talked about a lot of things, but when it
Yeah.
comes to like self-esteem and all that, we didn't talk about self-esteem
We
because,
can-
yeah,
And again, in the time that we have together, we're only merely touching this,
the surface, yeah.
barely scratching the surface.
think
Give yourself
I
a
think
moment.
self-esteem when it comes to trauma, there's a process because after anything traumatic happens, there is a buildup of feelings, emotions of already feeling unworthy, not good enough. That comes with the territory. So
Right.
as it relates to self-esteem, it's almost like you have to now go back and try to retract something that your mind is consistently telling you that you are unworthy, you are not good enough, you are this and you're that. And you have to actually put in the extra work to affirm yourself because your self-esteem is just going to automatically be low. You could, you know how people sometimes put on a facade like they are the most high esteem type of person, but they're really not, you know? You begin to become a, what's the word I want to use? What's the word I want to use? Where you show up as something that you're not, and then when you get behind your closed doors, then you're like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like you like you're a different person.
Mhm.
And I think that that's what typically happens with a lot of people. At least that's, I'm speaking in terms of me, right?
Mhm.
Is because there were moments where I was with friends and I was bold and I became extra. Like it's that extraness. And you're like, why am I being so extra? Why? Because it doesn't even make sense. And it's almost like you're trying to prove to yourself that you're not all these things that your brain is telling you that you are,
Yeah.
you know? And so, but when you release that and you let go, then you're like, no, I'm really these things, you know? Then the extraness comes off, and then now you're feeling the weight of the extraness. And so now you're like, okay, well, how do I carry this?
Right.
Like, how do I move now? Because that's when the walls start feeling like they're closing in on you.
Mhm.
So now you have to put in the extra work to go out there and basically say, okay, I know I am worthy. That's when you have to start feeding yourself the word of God, because he paints an entirely different picture
Right.
of who it is that you are. And it goes again with that. You got to put in the work. You have to do the work to do that, because if you're not understanding the person that God says that you are, then you're going to automatically go with the thoughts that you have about yourself. And you have to affirm yourself. What are the scriptures that you are pulling on to take you out of these moments when your self-esteem is low, right?
Mhm.
Like, I am fearfully and wonderfully made
Yeah.
regardless,
Mhm.
you know? Like,
Mhm.
I'm all these different things. Like, you can go on with scripture about who God says that you are and just go with that. But if you don't dive into the word, or if you don't affirm yourself continuously and consistently, because that's the key, is that when you deal with trauma, you have to be in a consistent basis of feeding yourself positivity, because the majority of the time your brain is going to tell you something different.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so very true. And I just want to add to that for those, because you spoke about scripture, and I think you can find some of the most amazing affirmations in scripture. There's biblical affirmations, but if you are not there, where you're inclined to reading the Bible and even believing, there's other things that you can do. And affirmations, that's not aligned with scriptures until you get there, because the prayers that hopefully you'll, see God and get to know God. But if you're not there yet, there's affirmations that you get up every day and tell yourself. And yes, you will have to talk to yourself, because this is about reframing this. During my experience, I know you ever watch in those cartoons or whatever where you see the enemy, the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other.
Mhm.
And for me, I always thought as a little girl growing up, you're seeing those things that the devil is going to be on one shoulder. No, it's your thought process, right? So that's a physical representation of what that looks like in your head on a daily basis when you're struggling with unhealed trauma and self-esteem, not feeling good enough. And but this is where you have to reframe. So for me, what that looked like was I struggled for years with
Yeah.
my self-esteem, as everything that Tammy just touched on and more, because there was the sexual trauma that I experienced. There was also the coupled with the fact that I had a physical or have a physical issue where I have to live, I'm living with a chronic illness, right? And what that looked like for me and what I believed about myself, because I had this issue dealing with all the time, and certain things that I would hear, why I'm so skinny and whatever. You take all of that on, and I start feeling, okay, one, I'm too skinny, maga, as they say it in Jamaica.
Mhm.
And then it added on to the whole sexual stuff of feeling nasty, unworthy, not valuable. And we spoke about this in a previous pod. But then where it took me, and the constant chatter in my head,
Mhm.
it was maddening at times.
Yeah.
It was maddening. And not to mention what you touched on just now of showing up in spaces, putting on this mask every day, going out in the world like, everything's great. I'm the life of the party. Look at me. I'm going to make you happy. And then when you go home, I'll
Mhm.
say it all the time. One day I'm going to read that piece, God on my pillow. Because, girl, at night, I was reduced to me, God, my pillow, and tears,
Mhm.
buckets of tears, right? But how I started to shift that again was I had to get clear and understand, and not just understand, but accept and believe, first and foremost, that the things that happened to me, it's not something that I did. It's not something that I wanted. It's not something that I went and put myself in the. No, these things happen. And when I started having to literally tell myself, I didn't cause all of this. This man or these people were
Mhm.
sick.
Yeah.
It was their issue, not mine.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what I want you guys, for those of you that are still there, that are struggling, get to the place where you honestly start telling yourself, understanding and accepting that it was not your fault. It is not your fault. You did not ask for the things that happened to you to happen to you. And it does not make you who you are. Okay, who you are on the it's who God sent you here to be. It's the beautiful and wonderfully created
Yeah.
being that he created. That's who you are. Unfortunately, the things that happen to us happen.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it, because if we could have, we would have done something about it. You can't do anything about it. The responsibility, however, now falls in your court to say, okay, going back to our first episode, acknowledging these are the issues that I'm facing with. I am presenting to be something that I know I'm not. I can't dress it up. I can't pretty it up. I can't put makeup over it, because we've been trying that, but yet at nights, you're still left with you. So
Absolutely.
we have to do something about this, because I am hurting. Why am I hurting? And if you can't pinpoint why you're hurting, sit with yourself long enough. Ask the people around you that know you the best, and be open, because sometimes they'll say things to you that they're so far off. But get to know yourself enough to get in that headspace of, I am hurting because this, or it could be one issue, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Name those things, start owning and accepting those things. Like, this is what it is. How do I begin to heal this thing?
Yes.
Right? How do you begin to heal it? Then you now go in search of the different tools. It's not therapy for everybody. It's barely prayer for a lot. They say so, but it really isn't. Get with yourself long enough. Stop for years. What I did, I don't know if Tammy can relate to this. I didn't even want to hear myself think because I felt I was going to hear those negative chit chatter in my head. So I would drown it out by being so busy and constantly having something playing. But turn it all off. Get off social media. It's going to be uncomfortable as hell,
Mhm.
but you deserve it. Sit with yourself. Ask yourself the hard questions. And if it is that you don't even know what to ask, reach out to some people or ask your spouse, ask your significant, ask your siblings. They'll be more than happy to tell you you got this, that, and the third issue. Trust me, speaking from experience. But anyhow, take all of that and then start asking, how do I begin to heal? Because it has to be that you have gotten to the place where you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of
Yeah.
feeling like crap. And I don't know how else to word that because that's what it was for me. I
Mhm.
was tired of it. I didn't want to live with this pain anymore. And I had to start the process of healing. Please do that. If you don't take anything else from the spot, just sit with yourself long enough to start jotting down. Get pen and paper. I got this issue, that issue, whatever it looks like, jot it down and then be proactive, be intentional, and start seeking out those things that is going to help you on your journey. I'm gonna shut up now. Tammy, you have anything else to add?
Um, I just want to say that, we're doing this because the whole purpose of this is we want you to thrive and go beyond that surviving mode or that surviving space, because life is so much better than, where you are right now if you allow yourself to go through that healing process so that you can thrive. And a lot of times we hold ourselves back and we do things unintentionally sometimes, but also with intention. Like getting into that relationship that you don't need to be in because you're not there, you know, and using that to kind of hide or deter you away from facing your real self.
Mm-hmm.
But the process begins when you begin to build that relationship with you, because that's the most important relationship that you have. You can't have healthy, functional relationships until you understand who you are. That means learning that I like this and I like that, and understanding those triggers so that you know how to handle them in situations. Imagine if Larissa, the experience that she shared earlier, imagine if she understood her triggers. Do you think she would have gone in a corner and began crying? Right? Because there's things that you need to understand. Okay, this triggers me, so now I know how to respond in that situation, so I'm not looking like I'm crazy. Right? You have to learn these things about yourself, which requires everything that Larissa's already said. You have to put in the work to do it. And so understand before you can go on that process of healing and journeying. Yes, we're going to desire relationships, and nothing's wrong with having one. But at the same time, you have to understand some things about you, because the whole reason of why or the whole purpose of you getting to that place where you can function is because you have to grow through the things that you've experienced from your past, which means that you have to do the work. You have to do the work. If you're already in a relationship and you're like, okay, I need to deal with these things, then still do the work. I'm not saying you can't have a relationship, but I'm saying there are things you need to understand about who you are, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I just add to that?
Of course.
That has dropped in my spirit. That is where prayer comes in, right? If you are an avid believer in prayer, in God, and all things God, that is where now you spend time in prayer asking God to reveal the things that are truly, if you're not even aware of some of these things, ask God to reveal them to you. That is one of the things that I had to do. And believe me, it was uncomfortable. And it still is uncomfortable as I go through my day to day sometimes. And the Holy Spirit is downloading things on the inside of me like, listen, girl, you tend to do this. You need to stop it. There's some really hard ouch moments. And I'm like, okay, you ain't gotta be coming at me that hard, Holy Spirit. Ouch. I receive it, I take it. But that again, going back to my original point, that's how prayer comes in, or when I started to shift, right? I had to realize this is where I need to pray now and ask God to show me the areas that this was not innately how I was sent here. These are things that I picked up along the way. This was not God's intent for me to be showing up in this particular way. So God, what are those things that I need to start stripping away at? Because this is really not who you designed me to be. Like perfect example for me, being a constant yes person. And we spoke about that earlier. That was not serving me. I'm not talking about being unwilling to help and to do whatever where others are. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about assigning levels of value to you wanting to be so validated that you're going above and beyond just to hear the words, oh yeah, I love you, or oh yeah, she's a good person, and whatever, when inside you feel like crap all day every day. No, that is not what this is is about, right? Who is it that God genuinely, when he made you, who he created you to be? I am now a yes person. I'm a yes person to God, not to other people, because I'm out here trying to make you see me as something that I really am not. Quite frankly, I'm at the place now in my life, I couldn't care less what anybody thinks about me. As long as my heart is aligned with God, and I've done some work and I'm still doing my work every single day to be comfortable with who God has created me to be. And a part of that looked like I had to go to God, and also through therapy as well, to start unlearning some of the things and start realizing some of the things that I adapted to, right? And because the molestation and all of the sexual trauma started so early for me, I was 5 years old. I started adapting and it started morphing me into something that God did not intend for me to be. Someone that got so far away from God's original intent for this particular creation, right? So I had to go back to the creator. That's the form of prayer, going back to the person that actually does have the manual on me. And I have to start asking God, okay, what are the things that you want me to do? Who is it that I am? Who did you create me to be? And now I have to start living different, showing up different, learning. And this is where which is a foreign term for some, reparenting, right? Some of the things that happen and the way I was raised and all of these things, not to mention the things I thought I had to do for my own survival. I have to go back and start unlearning those things and letting some of those things go, just to start walking into who God intended for me to be initially. And there I put that to you. Again, we're not on here trying to tell you this journey is easy. It's not, but you are deserving of becoming who God intended you to be. And being the person that you desire to be. Ask yourself, How do I want to show up? Who do I want to be? Do I want to be a person of integrity?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to get to that place if I'm not that person right now? You have to do the work and start setting boundaries. That's another episode, girl. We don't have to do setting boundaries. Before, Larissa, can you do this? Sure. Why not? And on the inside, I'm going, no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
But because I was such a yes person, no, it don't sit right with me. I ain't doing it. Are you going to be upset? Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I'm not fully there yet because there's some people, especially my loved ones, that I'm still having to
family
figure
gonna family.
the family girl.
Push all the limits.
I'm working on that. It's an everyday thing, okay? But for people that I'm really probably not that close with, no, it's a no for me. I ain't doing it if I don't feel like it. Boundaries.
Yeah.
And that looks like many different things. Another episode. So I guess we will be continuing. I'm gonna shut up now.
I know, because you were talking, I was like, we need another one for forgiveness as well, because we'll be here all day. But anyways, I'm stirring the pot right now. I'm stirring the pot. I don't really have anything to say because I think that, we've said so much already. Just remember that if you are in this situation, all things are still working together for the good. I know that you might not be in a position where you see it, but the end result is going to be for the good. God turns bad situations good all the time. Look at us today. We're here. We've experienced a lot of the bad, and we're only talking about just a piece of it. Just to give you an idea so that you can get your own story and understand through our process. But we're not talking it all, right? Because there are a lot of things that happen in our lives, and that goes even beyond the trauma. But understanding that all things are working together, regardless, means that you still have something to look forward to, because God can find purpose in any situation. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be here sharing about the trauma that we've experienced. We just want to say thank you for being a part. Clearly, there still needs to be more. We're gonna talk about how more is going to happen, but we got to formulate that together in our minds first before we come back out here. We thank you for participating. And we welcome you to, follow us on our pages. Yes. We want to encourage you to, follow our platforms. We want to encourage you. We welcome your questions. We welcome, how do you get out and anything that you need to know. Like, we are here, we are open, and we are available. I mean, I don't know how much more transparent you need us to be, because we have pretty much laid a lot of things out there. We probably need to go back and rewind and be like, hold on, wait, did we share too much? Did I say that? But we overcome because of our testimonies and by the blood of the Lamb. And so we're doing it all because of God. Like, we have no more shame in that. We know that God is using our stories. We know that he's using us as his oracles to do what it is that he has called us to do, which aligns with what we're doing right now. And so we share in what God is telling us to share. We pray before we do these things, because we need God to speak through us so that he can speak to you. Right. And so we thank you again for joining in on the series. Larissa, do you have anything else that you want to say?
Just to add to what you said before, we are going to have to find a way to continue this. That's one of the issues I do have with these months. A sexual assault awareness month, child abuse prevention month. No, this is happening every single day. It's our lives every single day, right? And so we have to continue the conversation, not just for this particular month, but every day, as often as we can. And when I say we, I'm not just talking about Tammy and myself. I'm talking about we collectively who have had this experience, to start the process of having the difficult and uneasy conversations, but we're having them for a reason, because people need to start the healing journey, those of you that haven't yet, and to really start awakening to who it is that they're supposed to be. right? So with that, I just want to, everything that Tammy said, I agree with. You can join us on our platforms. But for me, wrapping up is I want to say you are worthy, you are deserving, you are valuable. You deserve to start this healing journey and uncover who it is that is down on the inside of you, that person that you have packed, and well, not just you, but life has packed so many things on top of that unique individual that's buried under there. Start unpacking and uncovering who it is that you are, and get reacquainted with yourself.
Yeah.
Really, again, because you deserve it. You deserve to show up for yourself, to really walk into that person that you are, claim your power, walk in dignity, and just be authentically who God created you to be. And that's it. And nothing else. We love you.
Yes.
If nobody else loves you, we love you. Okay. And as Tammy said, don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're here.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you all. We appreciate you. And bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Now, friends, if this conversation blessed you, do me a favor. Take a moment to like, leave a review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, because you already know we need more faith-filled, real conversations like this in the world. And listen, I know you heard a gem today, something that made you pause, something that made you think, something that made you say, woo, this was for me. But friend, it might not be just for you. So go ahead and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Send it to a friend, a spouse, a sister in Christ, somebody who's been feeling stuck or silent in this area. Let's spread healing, freedom, and truth one conversation at a time. And until next time, we're going to get candid, but keep it God. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. This the space where hearts get free, learning our bodies with holy